Go to the beach in Japan and find a biscuit starfish, maybe the species Neopherdina japonica. Split it open and find yourself in a horror movie. Inside, you may find a pale, fleshy mass the size of a child's fist, covered in lobes that fan out like tree branches, that may slide out of the starfish. It has no eyes, it has no legs, it has no shell, but it is a crustacean. It is a female Dendrogaster, likely one of a new species described in 2024, and one of the strangest parasites on the planet. A crustacean that has thrown away nearly every feature of a crustacean. A disclaimer at the start of this. There are still huge gaps in our knowledge about this group, despite lots of work being done recently by Japanese biologists. This is partially because infected hosts carry no outer signs of infection, and partially because many of these creatures live in the deep sea. As far as I know, no one has ever successfully reared a Dendrogaster through its complete life cycle under laboratory conditions, so the full life cycle of this crustacean is unknown. With that in mind, here are some things we think we know about it. Dendrogaster is a crustacean that belongs to an evolutionary offshoot of the barnacles. Barnacles are weird. Darwin spent 8 years obsessing over them, trying to figure out how they evolved. Barnacle adults are completely immobile and use their tiny legs to kick food into their mouths. Dendrogaster has gone even further along in its loss of independence. The adult female has discarded every visible trace of being a crustacean. She has no hard exoskeleton, no segmented body, no jointed appendages. What she is a soft, branching sac that exists to absorb nutrients and produce babies inside the body of a living starfish. The genus was first described in 1890. Since then, about 35 species have been named, and they have turned up inside starfish all over the world. Wherever there are starfish, there are probably Dendrogaster. Dendro means tree-like, and gaster refers to a stomach. This crustacean is just a tree-shaped belly. The adult female's body is dominated by a fleshy outer mantle that sprouts elaborate branching lobes radiating outward. These branches fill up the starfish's body, winding between the host's internal organs like roots. The branching shape appears to be an adaptation for absorbing nutrients across as much surface area as possible. A starfish is mostly hollow inside. Its body cavity, called the coelom, is a fluid-filled space containing the gonads, stomach, and various ducts. Dendrogaster has evolved to float freely inside this cavity, spreading itself out to maximize contact with the blood-like fluid that bathes the starfish's organs. No one is sure how Dendrogaster feeds. The theory is that it absorbs dissolved nutrients directly through its mantle tissue. The adult female doesn't have mouth parts, so she can't really eat. She just soaks. We think the life cycle of Dendrogaster follows the same general pattern as its barnacle relatives, and is a lot like the other barnacle parasite Rhizocephala. Like all members of the barnacles, Dendrogaster begins life as a nauplius larva that it uses to swim and to feed. At this stage, Dendrogaster looks more or less like every other crustacean. In many Dendrogaster species, the mother actually broods her nauplius larvae inside her own mantle, rather than releasing them into the open water. The young develop under her protection until they reach a more advanced larval form called the cyprid. This is the stage where the larva must find a host. The cyprid locates its host through unknown means, attaches to the starfish's body, and then somehow penetrates the starfish's thick skin to get inside the body. How a tiny larva does this has not been documented for any Dendrogaster species. Once inside, its segmented body dissolves. The hard exoskeleton softens into a flexible mantle. What emerges is a soft, shapeless blob that will eventually develop the characteristic branching lobes of the adult female. The female seems to grow slowly, expanding her branching mantle to fill more and more of the host's coelom. A fully mature, egg-bearing female can reach a size of over 6 centimeters. The branching pattern varies between species and is one of the many ways taxonomists identify different Dendrogaster species. Some species have a relatively simple branching structure. Others develop complex fractal patterns of lobes splitting into sublobes, which split into more sublobes. Male Dendrogaster are tiny, less than a quarter size of the female. A male typically lives inside the female's mantle cavity, surrounded by her eggs. He maintains a bivalve shell and a pair of long, thin testes. He is essentially a small package of sperm living as a parasite inside the female. The effects of Dendrogaster on its host starfish are severe and wasting. Parasitized starfish have smaller gonads, shrunk stomachs, and thinner body walls. Dendrogaster drains energy and strength from every tissue in the host. In about 1 in 5 infected starfish, the genitals are completely destroyed. The parasite castrates them. Castration is a legitimate tactic for a parasite. A castrated host cannot reproduce, which means that all of the energy it would have spent on making eggs or sperm is now available for the parasite to use. Eventually, the adult female Dendrogaster escapes from the host by tearing her way out through the body wall. The emergence of the parasite is usually lethal. The female's mantle is packed with nauplii larvae, ready to be released into the water to find new hosts. She will not survive the host emergence either. Whether the female releases her babies actively, or whether they disperse as her body breaks down after leaving the host, is unknown. The prevalence of Dendrogaster infection varies. In Japanese waters, some species show infection rates above 30%. Other surveys find rates as low as 1 or 2%. Since the parasite is completely invisible from the outside, you cannot tell an infected starfish from a healthy one without dissection. Dendrogaster could be far more common than we think.